Welcome to Skill Sprint with me, Chris Webber. This video is a quick highlight reel of my latest episode of the Commercial Edge podcast. I use my notes and scribbles from the full-length conversation to pull out what I feel are the headlines and lessons from my most recent expert guest. Drawing on my experience, this video gives you all the key points without the stories. My hope is that you can use these tips and tricks to unleash the power of your people. Latest episode in accountability has just been recorded, and I spoke to Karina Ankuta, who was full of wisdom and thoughtfulness, and that really flowed through the conversation that we had as someone who's a very considered personality who really reflects deeply on the impact that she's having on people and the messages that she's talking about. She's talks a lot to senior leaders and coaches senior leaders at various transitions in their life. So it could be mergers and acquisitions. It could be changes to structures, but it's when people feel that they've maybe lost a little bit of their ownership and their direction that she's able to support them through that transition. And it was a completely different angle on accountability, very much focused on the individual at the heart of accountability and moving away from my team or my changes or my colleagues. And it was really powerful. And we started off talking about the pressure of being accountable, the pressure of our impact on the world, and the clients that she works with who are senior in their organization. And what they feel and what they know is that if they don't get it right, it impacts a whole range of other people in their organization. And that creates stress and pressure. And so she took us through her leadership framework. And the phrase that stuck with me in the way that she coaches people was radical responsibility. Taking real responsibility for being honest with yourself about where you are right now. And it set us off in a whole conversation about both positive and negative. Do we see the positives in ourselves? Are we really honest about what we're good at? And areas where we're not in control and we need to be honest that we need to change and reflect again. And it, to me, it became a really important factor in accountability for self, accountability for change. And we started to reflect on what future self would say. And, one of the elements that's important is what would my future self think of decisions that I make today? Health is an obvious area where your future self can only be grateful for the work that you do right now. But money is another one. And I think that for me, it really stuck about being honest with yourself, being accountable to your future self, to the things that they want you to hear, the things that they want you to say, the things that they want you to have done now to make their life easier. And I don't think we often think about our future selves in that way. And talking to somebody recently, they said that we struggle as humans to imagine ourselves in 20 years' time. They are a complete stranger to us, the things that they like, the things that they don't like, even though it's us. It's a disconnect. But if we see them as a customer of who we are today, see them as a product of who we are today, and we choose to be accountable to that person, what decisions would we make? What would we do differently? What would we prioritize right now? Because I think those are great questions. And I think that will change our approach to the decisions that we might make. And so we reflected on all of this stuff with Karina and started to discuss what impact we have on other people. And I was left with a phrase that I was reminded of my younger self, which is, have I done what I said I would do today? And it was a mantra of mine for many years. I always wanted to be taken for a person of their word. Have I done what I said I was going to do? And when I look at choices that I made and things that didn't go as well as I wanted them to do, I think it was because I didn't do what I said I would do. I didn't put in the work. I didn't commit. Instead, I hoped. Instead, I expected things to change, expected things to be great. And being accountable for performance, being accountable for making things happen is so, so important. And so I'm going to reinvigorate this phrase for myself. Have I done what I said I would do? And being responsible for myself, being accountable to the future me. And I think it's incredibly powerful advice for you to be accountable for your own results and in charge of what you want to do. We've got one more episode left in this series of accountability, and it's again we've gone in a different direction this time, and I'm excited again to hear the angle that we're going to have on our next guest, and what tips and tricks we're going to pull out that can really help people to get ahead and to drive performance for themselves and for their teams. It's going to be great stuff.